Happy Thursday. Guess what I'm doing? Driving southbound 880 in the traffic, non-stop, no matter what fucking time I drive in this place. Always the same. Gonna pick up a 2-pole 20 amp breaker for a single phase 3/4 horsepower 208 volt exhaust fan motor. Gonna try and install the rest of that refrigerant monitor panel. I'll go over that later. Pick up some other parts and pieces. Teach a 4th year class. Then drive northbound 880 once again back home, and thereby completing the loop of the bay. Well, a lot of times while I'm driving, I find it interesting that Joe Rogan used to have people on there that were actually kind of interesting, had a different perspective, you know, made you think, whether it was you didn't like them or you liked them, but still you find it entertaining. Sometimes it was funny. But lately he brought on this guy, Brian Greene, for like the 2nd or 3rd time. He's brought Neil deGrasse Tyson on there like 3-4 times. These people are nothing more than fucking mathematician, charlatan liars. Get that straight. Everything that they talk about, everything they go over is nothing more than mathematical nonsense. Everything that you, right now, that you use on a daily basis was not built by mathematicians. Get that straight. Like that Brian Greene guy, one of the first things he starts talking about, the beginning of the universe, the end of the universe, how everything, life, consciousness, it just happened. We don't know how. Just you jiggle enough stuff together, you randomize it enough. Oh, entropy, that's their buzzword. What the fuck does entropy mean? It talks about, in their 2nd law of thermodynamics, their own fucking law that they made up, they talk about how fucking entropy is a degeneration into more and more chaotic systems. Nothing that would create me or you or even a fucking amoeba or a fly or an ant. Nothing would create that out of randomness. And just think about it. If any of this natural selection or, evolution was just a random happen chance of things happening, would you give your child a hammer and say, there's a computer, hammer away? Maybe we might just fuck it up and make a better computer. Or a car. Would you ever fucking give a gorilla or a bear a car and say, there you go? It's the same with computer code. And realize it, DNA and all of what is inside of us is a code. And if you fuck up the code, you see the results very quickly. Even a small amount of a fuck up in the code, and you see how fucking horrible things can get. So the idea that you can fuck shit up and get better living organisms is insane. And it's the same with Einstein. Spending space. All of this reification of things that don't exist is like saying a shadow is the absence of light and being able to bend a shadow. No, you can't bend a fucking shadow. You can only cast a shadow. It's the same with space. The absence of matter does not mean that you can bend it. That's not what gravity is. If you start looking into it, everything revolves around electricity, diamagnetism, and magnetism. Look into it. One of the very first things you start realizing how whack Einstein was is he used to talk about light. For never mind gravity, let's talk about light. And they talked about the duality of light, how it's a particle and a wave. Well, there is no fucking thing. Me speaking right now Me vibrating the atoms in the air is not me projecting particles out. There's no duality of sound. It's the same with the AM FM radio. That's a frequency. It's the same with infrared. It's the same with X-ray. All of these things are frequency, and just because our eyes are attuned to a very small narrow band of a frequency that we call visible light doesn't mean that it's somehow different. There is no fucking thing as a photon. That's a made-up quantity that mathematicians use to try and balance their equations. So the number one thing that you should always realize that these people are trying to sell you is that this is a random, happen chance, just chaotic mess that we just happen to spring into existence. Nothing happens from nothing, and there is no randomness that creates stuff. It would be as stupid as going to the beach and expecting to see a fucking Bugatti Veyron there. No amount of fucking time is ever going to create that. It's the same with something that's way more complicated than any car or any vehicle. So, whenever you start looking into photons and electrons and quantum and all of that stuff, realize that these are mathematical concepts that mathematicians use to try and fool people, because in their world everything has to be divided up into very small particles. It's called atomism. And when you start looking into the real physical world, it doesn't work like that. The power lines, there's not trillions of fucking electrons flowing on the power lines. It's a magnetic field. Every conductor and any kind of current that you flow through a wire, there's going to be a magnetic field. And a field you cannot quantify. So me as an electrician, one of the very first things that started to confound me is electrons. That's a quantity. But then there's this magnetic field. Every time you start flowing any kind of current, there's a field that's created. It's the same with an atom. There's a field that it creates. Everything has a field. So anyway, listen to Brian Greene, listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson, and it was kind of interesting for me to see a fucking nighttime comedian trip Neil deGrasse Tyson up by asking him about gravity. Yeah, what the fuck is gravity? You can't describe it using math because it's a field. Anyway, look into it and start opening up your mind and realizing there's a lot more to this world than just what you've been told. That Einstein literally means one stone in German. It's the same with Sir Isaac Newton. Sir Isaac Newton did not create calculus. Once again, like Einstein, it was stolen from another person, Leibniz. Leibniz created calculus, and then, just happened that Newton happened to create it at the same time, so he gets all the credit. Fucking bullshit. He's pushed upon because he pushes a certain narrative. It's the same with Einstein. He did not create anything. Everything that you see and you use and you cherish in your life was created by a few people, and they're not mentioned in the history books. Nikola Tesla is starting to get more fame because of the internet, and people realize how much he's contributed to the science and all of the things that you see, but he was an actual person that worked with his hands and built experiments to actually test his own theories. Einstein has never once created any experiments, never once built anything, never helped anyone. It's the same with the telegraph. When they first started trying to transmit long distance communication using the telegraph system, they quickly realized that they couldn't do it So there's a guy called Oliver Heaviside. Have you heard of him? No, of course not. Because they don't talk about the people that actually were able to figure out the stuff that you see around. He was the man that was able to create the engineering formulas that we use to this day to try to actually communicate signals with. Steinmetz. Never have I ever heard of a person called Steinmetz until I started looking into the people that actually created the system and the engineering that we use every day. So there's my Thursday rant. I thought it'd be interesting. Look into those people, Oliver Heaviside, Steinmetz, and especially Nikola Tesla. I'm pretty certain if you're an electrician, you've heard of him. He has created so many things. It's insane. And a lot of his sayings are incredibly true. He talks about the mathematicians and building a structure that bears no resemblance upon which you see and you know to be true. All right. Happy Thursday.